Hi, and welcome to Michael's Musings on Music. For the next few installments, I want to talk about the ingredients of music and how they're put together, what we call music theory. And I want to start from the very beginning and add a little bit each time. We're going to deal with little bite-sized pieces so we don't get overwhelmed. These talks will be for someone who loves music and loves our concerts and wants to know a little bit more about how music works. So let's start with the beat. The beat is a pulsation that divides time into equal lengths. A clock is a good example. Every minute, a clock ticks 60 seconds, and each one of those ticks is a beat. A beat divides time into equal lengths. Now, notes tell you what to play during those ticks, how long and how often to play a certain musical pitch within that beat. Because when you think of a note, you often think of a sound. But one of the main uses for notes is to explain exactly how long a specific pitch should be held. This is what we call the note value, and it's indicated by what the note looks like. So let's introduce the notes. Whole note. This is a half note. This is a quarter note. Now notice that the half note and quarter note both have what we call a stem. The half note's not filled in. This is what we call the head of the note. The head's not filled in. But a quarter note has a stem and the head's filled in. A whole note just has the head and no stem. This is what we call an eighth note, and this is what we call a flag. This is a 16th note, and it has two flags. So, whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, 16th note. Now don't worry if you can't remember all the notes. We're going to kind of keep working with them as we go. Okay, let's now talk about the relation between notes and why they're called whole, half, quarter, etc. Now, this chart might look a little bit overwhelming, but really it's simple math. Two halves in a whole. Two quarters in a half. Two eighths in a quarter. Two sixteenths in an eighth. Or to put it another way, two halves in a whole. Four quarters in a whole. 8 eighths in a whole, or 16 16th notes in a whole. Here's another way to think about the relation between notes. If you imagine the whole note as a pie, a half note cuts the pie in half. A quarter note cuts the pie into quarters, and there's 4 quarters. An eighth note cuts the pie into 8 pieces, and so on. So the relation between note values is simply the mathematical relation between whole and half and quarter and eighth. All right, you with me so far? Good. All right, let's bring the notion of beats back into the discussion. Now remember, a beat is a pulsation that divides time into equal lengths. And each note has its own number of beats. So a whole note, the whole pie, lasts for an entire 4 beats. So for 4 beats, you don't have to do anything with this note except play it and hold it. Now let's demonstrate this out loud by clapping. So when we clap the note value of a note, in this case a whole note, and that's how long it should be held, 4 beats, we clap on the note and say aloud the remaining beats. So the note value for a whole note is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if a whole note is 4 beats, what would a half note be? Well, it would be half of 4 beats, which is 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We clap on the note and we say aloud the remaining beats. Okay, so far so good. How about a quarter note? A quarter of the pie. The full pie is 4 beats. half the pie is 2 beats, so a quarter of the pie is 1 beat. 1, 1, 1, 1. Every beat gets a clap. Okay, now how about eighth notes? Now, this gets a little bit trickier, so let's refer to the chart again. Remember, 2 eighth notes equals a quarter. A quarter gets 1 beat, so an eighth note gets half a beat. Well, how do we clap that? 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and. Now, just to follow the idea through, 16th note, as we look at the chart again, there's 4 16ths in a quarter. That means 4 16th notes get 1 beat, so it would be like this. 1 beat and 2 beat and 3 beat. But don't worry too much about that. You get the principle. All right, very, very good. Now, let's look at an example and see if we can clap it out together. Okay, here's an example. Now, before we clap this out, I want to explain something. These are 2 eighth notes, and this is what we call a beam. Now, remember the eighth note with the flag like this? When you write 2 eighth notes together, you connect them with a beam. So we have 2 eighths, a quarter note, half note. Remember, not filled in head with the stem. There's 2 eighths again. There's a half note. There's a quarter note. And there's a whole note. So it'll clap like this. 1 and 1, 1, 2. 1 and 1, 2. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, next time will be kind of a review of all we've talked about in this time, because we're going to be talking about rests, which follow the very same principle. Talk to you that time.